we have just stopped, like we just go through the basic introduction on the Linux environment, and then we stop there. So we need to complete the rest of the lecture, like where we have stopped. So just we have look at the what is the Linux and why, where is Linux is, and I think we have gone to the history of the Linux as well. So we discussed about two persons like Linus Torvalds and Richard Stallman, where how they have been involved with this Linux development. Is this the place that we have stopped? Oh, just basically what we will be going to look at here is we are going to look at where the Linux today is and how we are going to present it, and what are the things that whenever you are going forward, how we will be going to deal with it. So if you look at the Linux today's environment, like even if you look at the because there were two major operating systems that we actually using. One is Linux variations, the other one is the Microsoft. Apart from that, we have the Apple iOS images, iOS Apple operating systems as well. But if you look at the, like, if you break the utilization of this operating system into two parts, basically the end user operating system and the server operating systems, we do have two things, like most of the end users are not willing to go with, like, because it's if the end user is not a technical person, obviously they will be not able to deal with the Linux environment. But if you look at the say for example, if you look at the technical persons, most of the technical persons will be using the Linux will be utilizing and using the Linux OSs as their desktop environment, and non-technical people, of course, are using their operating system as a Windows. So that is basically how it goes, how it works. Whenever you are going to deal with this Linux environment, like there was a city, actually, the city called City of Linux. Even the users also, like in the German, there was a city called City of Linux. In that city, the users are also using Linux for the desktop operating system as well. If you look at the, like, uh, right now, if you look at the end user utilization of the Linux operating systems, Linux variations, there might be sort of a like 20% out of the whole compute utilization. End users will be utilizing 20% of the Linux operating system. All those 20% people are mostly dealing with the technical environment, so that's why they are using this most of the times they are using the this particular environment, like sorry, not the particular environment, this uh, the Linux in use in Linux flavored operating systems. But rest of the 80% will be a combination of the Microsoft and the Apple Mac users. But if you look at the server operating system definitely most of the time, like because most of the solutions that we are running, like if you want to deal with the GitHub, GitLab, and then again if you want to deal with the DevOps environment, DevOps tool sets. So in that case, most of the operating systems will be runs on the Linux OSs. Most of the platforms which will be running on the Linux OSs. There were about few solutions which were running on the Windows operating system. So if you look at the Windows server environment, it is very rare that they will be going ahead with this environment. So that is very, very rare how that they are going ahead. So basically what they really most of the time what the people looking at is for the server environment is the Linux operating systems. So that is the basic idea of this where the Linux are today right now. So end users are very less that is using, but servers, quite a few servers, like quite a few businesses. Even if you look at the Google is purely dealing with, there were solutions running on the Windows as well, but most of the solutions which were purely deal with the Linux OSs. And even if you look at the Chrome OS and the Android, both are development of the Google, which are totally open source solutions. Android is using the Linux kernel, so which is a 100% open source solution. So if you look at the where the Linux OSs are today, it's basically everywhere, like from the PDA, supercomputers, from the tiny IoT device to the high computing platform, until up to the high computing platforms, Linux is everywhere. Whereas if you look at the IoT devices, especially coming to the IoT environment for the Windows, we don't have a way to deal with the Windows environment. So likewise, we do have a concerns issues in that environment. Is it clear, guys? Are you clear?
Yes, sir.
Any issues, concerns so far? So if you look at the Linux, I have already explained this one. It is a free Linux. When you say the GNU Linux, not the just a Linux, when you say the GNU Linux, we call it as a free software. Definitely, it's a free software where we will be utilizing. So, so whenever you want to you do have a liberty to download at any given time and use it without making any subscription or without making any payment. So that is called the qualified as a free software standard. So always keep in mind that the Linux is a free software which is defined by the Free Software Foundation. So you can view the source codes, you can study their source codes, you can develop by using that source code. You can develop your own source codes. You can share those programs with others. So you can do anything. So it's a free and open source. So it's a free software. When you say the GNU Linux, huh? When we say the GNU Linux, that is called free and open source software. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to learn here is the type of software that we will be going to deal with. Type of software. So how many of you know about the Linux flavors? What type of Linux flavors that you have deal with it? Can anyone tell me those things? Linux flavors.
Fedora, sir.
Okay, anything else? Anything else? What are the other Linux flavors that you have played with?
Sir, favors क्या the distribution इवत हरिगा?
Distribution no. Distribution තමයි.
Kali Mandriga.
Kali, Mandriva, what else? තව මොනවද තියෙන්නේ?
SUSE.
SUSE, තව මොනවද?
Debian.
Debian. තව මොනවද ඔයාලා use කරලා තියෙන Linux distributions? Flavors.
CentOS.
CentOS, තව මොනවද?
Black box.
right. ඔයාලා ඔය කියපු ඔක්කොම ඇවිල්ලා OSs ඈ. මම ඒ Linux distributions නැත්නම් flavors මොනවද කියලා. ඔය කිව්වේ ඔක්කොම OSs. එකක්වත් ඔය එකක්වත් flavors නෙමෙයි. Linux flavors නැත්නම් distribution නෙමෙයි. Linux distribution කියලා කියන්නේ whenever you look at the Linux distribution, it's something like this. So there were type of like based on the like common utilities, they have grouped those OSs under the one categories. Like say for example, දැන් ඔයාලා බැලුවොත් එහෙම when you say the CentOS කිව්වත් Fedora කිව්වත් Red Hat Enterprise Linux
Debian.
Debian
Yes, Debian.
yeah. හරි ඔයාලා ඔය මොක තුනම කිව්වත් ඔය තුනේම පාවිච්චි කරන පැකේජ් මැනේජර් කියන්නේ packages install කරන්න ගන්න tool set එක base කරගෙන තමයි distributions categorize කරන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔය තුනේම ගන්න distribute package management system එක කියන්නේ package manage කරන්න ගන්න system එක තමයි RPM කියන එක. If you look at like whenever you look at the Windows, what is their package management system?
EXE.
Oh, EXE තමයි EXE නෙමෙයි ඔකේ තව මොකක් කර නමක් කියනවා ඒකට. මොකක් කර නමක් කියනවා.
NTFS එක සර්.
නෑ ඒ package නෙමෙයි ඒ disk management disk operating.
සර් ලිනක්ස් වල මොකද කේස් එක?
Linux ඒක තමයි එක එක ඒවා තියෙන දැන් ඕක exe පාවිච්චි කරන package management මට නම් මතක නැහැ ඒකේ. Linux වල ගත්තම Linux වල එක එක package management තියෙනවා systems. දැන් ඔය එක ඒ package management system එක base කරන් තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝ families හදලා flavors හදලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් RPM package management තියෙනවා. Red Hat RPM කියලා කියන Red Hat package management system එක. RPM package management තියෙනවා එයා use කරන්නේ ඒ කියන්නේ Red Hat package manage කරන්න ගන්න ඒවා Red Hat package management තියෙන RPM තියෙන ඒවා use කරන්නේ එයා use කරන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ categorize කරලා තියෙන Red Hat family එකට. දැන් Debian OSs ගත්තොත් Debian, Kali Linux, Mint OS, Ubuntu, Kubuntu ඔය ඔක්කොම තියෙන්නේ ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ තියෙන්නේ DPKG කියන package management system. කියන එක. DPKG package management system තියෙන ටික ඔක්කොම ඒක අයිති වෙන family එක තමයි Debian කියන්නේ. ඊට පස්සේ අනිත් ඒවාටත් එහෙම තියෙන එක ඔය වගේ package manage ඔය මං කිව්වේ මේජම Linux family දෙක. ඒ කියන්නේ මේජම Linux distributions දෙක flavors දෙක එකක් තමයි Red Hat අනිත් එක තමයි Debian. So Debian යට තියෙනවා Debian OS එක එනවා, server OS එක, Ubuntu එනවා, Kali Linux එනවා, Mint OS එනවා. ඔය ඔක්කොම Parrot OS එක එනවා. ඔය ඔක්කොම එන්නේ Debian යටතේ. Debian Linux OS flavor එක යටතේ තමයි එන්නේ. එතකොට ඔයාලා ඔය මොන එකත් එක්ක වැඩ කරත් ඕකේ command set එක ඔක්කොම එකයි. ඒ කියන්නේ package management commands ටික ගොඩක් වෙනස් වෙන්නේ ඔය family එකෙන් family එකට වෙනස් වෙන්නේ package management commands ටික විතරයි. එතකොට ওই දෙකෙන් package management command set එක මේ Debian ඔක්කොගෙන් package management command set එක එකයි. එතකොට network configurations තියෙන එකම තැන්වල ඔක්කොම similar. එතකොට ඔයා Debian එකක් පාවිච්චි කරත් Ubuntu එකක් පාවිච්චි කරත් ඔයා ගන්න එකම experience එක. මොකද ඔක්කොම එක හින්දා. ඔයා CentOS එකක් පාවිච්චි කරොත් එහෙම CentOS එකයි Debian එක අතර වෙනස්. package management system එකේ වෙනස්. එතකොට ඒකේ Debian එක වෙනස්, අරගේ Debian package management system එක වෙනස්. අනම්මනම් ඒවට ටික වෙනස්. එතකොට ඔයා CentOS එක පාවිච්චි කරනකොට ගන්න experience එක වෙනස්. ඊට CentOS එකයි ඊට පස්සේ හැබැයි CentOS එකයි Fedora එකයි Red Hat Enterprise Linux කියන තුනම එකම දේ. මොක පාවිච්චි කරත් එකම දේ එකම විදිය identity. clear දෙයක.
yes sir. sir එතකොට bash හරි bash එහෙම කියනවාද?
bash කියන්නේ දැන් ඔයාලා Windows පාවිච්චි කරද්දී ඔයාලට command line එකක් එනවනේ. වැඩ කරන්න. දැන් GUI එකට අමතරව ඔයාලට දෙනවනේ command line එක.
ඔව් sir.
යන්නේ command line එක වගේම අපිට terminal environment එකක් දෙනවා Windows Linux වල වැඩ කරන්න. ඒ terminal environment Linux තනිකරම යන වැඩ කරන terminal environment එක කියන්නේ bash. bash කියන්නේ shell scripting language එකක්. දැන් ඔයාලා ගත්තොත් එහෙම scripting languages කීපයක් තියෙනවා. Perl, Python, Bash, C shell, Corn shell. කීපයක් නේ ගොඩක් තියෙනවා. Corn shell ඊට පස්සේ එක එක scripting languages ඒවා. දැන් Linux වල ඔයගොල්ලෝ වැඩ කරනවා නම් Linux වල default shell scripting language එක තමයි Bash. ඔයා ටර්මිනල් දැන් අපිව ගහන ටර්මිනල් එකේ ගහන්න ඉස්සරහට පාවිච්චි කරන ඔක්කොම කමාන්ඩ් ඕවා බෑෂ් කමාන්ඩ්. cd කියයි mkdir කියයි අර වගේ මේ වගේ සේරම බෑෂ් කමාන්ඩ්. මොකද Linux OS ඔක්කොම ඒ කියන්නේ Debian වේවා CentOS වේවා ඔයා යූස් කරන Arch Linux වේවා SUSE Linux වේවා Mandriva කියන තව එක ෆ්ලේවරේෂන් එකක් ඒ ඔක්කොම තියෙන්නේ ඔක්කොගෙම යන යූස් කරන ස්ක්‍රිප්ටිං ලැන්ග්වේජ් එක තමයි bash. Clear ඒක?
ඔව් සර්.
Right. So likewise, you can have this. This is the Red Hat Linux. So under the Red Hat, we have a different type of operating system. Like free version is the Fedora, CentOS another free version, free and open source. But Red Hat Enterprise Linux is a subscription. Like it's not a free. You can download the Red Hat Enterprise Linux images, but when you install it, it's not like a Windows activation, but it will ask in the subscription systems to activate this one. They will ask the subscription systems. So you really require that one. You really require that one. Is it clear, guys?
Yes sir.
So Red Hat Enterprise Linux is not a free one. Source code is open again. Even though we are making a subscription payment with the Red Hat to utilize to use the Red Hat Enterprise Linux RHEL systems. But keep in mind that the RHEL systems like the source code is open, but it's not for free. Not for free. So then again we have a Debian flavor, Linux flavor that is under that. We have so many other distribution variants as well, like Debian Server OS, Ubuntu, Mint, Ubuntu, Kali Linux. There are so many other things as well. There is another Linux flavorizations like Flavor OS, like SUSE Linux. SUSE Linux වල පාවිච්චි කරන ඇත්තටම වෙනම package management system එකක්. මට ඇත්තටම experience නැහැ SUSE Linux එක්ක. මට තියෙන මේ Linux flavors දෙකත් එක්ක විතරයි වැඩ කරලා experience එක. Red Hat එකයි Debian එකයි. මම SUSE Linux එක ඇත්තටම වැඩ කරලා පාවිච්චි කරලා experience එක නැහැ. ඒකෙත් තියෙන OS versions දෙකක් ඇත්තටම එකක් තමයි open SUSE ඒක totally free අනිත් එක තමයි SUSE Enterprise Linux එක. SUSE Enterprise Linux එක free නෙමෙයි. ඒකත් Red Hat එක වගේ subscription payment එකක් කරලා තමයි ඔයාලා ගන්න ඕනි ඒක. SUSE Enterprise Linux එක. ඒක free නෑ. Not for free. Not for free. ඊට අමතරව තව තියෙනවා ගොඩාක් තියෙනවා Mandriva Linux කියන තව Linux flavor එකක් distribution එකක්. ඊට පස්සේ Arch Linux දැන් මේ මම පාවිච්චි කරන laptop එකේ පාවිච්චි කරන Arch Linux එක. Arch Linux කියන්නේ තවත් එක්තරා එක Linux flavor එකක්. ඔය වගේ ගොඩක් තියෙන Arch Linux වල පාවිච්චි කරන package management system එක තමයි Pacman කියලා කියන්නේ. ඒක use කරන්නේ Pacman එක. So likewise there were so many other things as like multiple Linux distributions are available. Multiple distributions ගොඩාක් තියෙනවා. අපි වැඩි use කරන්නේ නැහැ අතර මේ ඔක්කොම අපි. industry එකේ use වෙන්නේ මේ එක්ක Debian නැත්නම් Red Hat තමයි. දෙකෙන් එකක් විතරයි ඔයගොල්ලන්ට use කරන්න වෙන්නේ. Clear guys?
Yes sir.
Any issues, concerns? Any issues, concerns so far what we have discussed?
සර් ඒවා මේ ස්පෙસિෆික් ටාස්ක් වලට වෙනමද හදලා තියෙන්නේ එතකොට?
එහෙම නෑ. එහෙම ස්පෙસિෆික් ටාස්ක් වලට කියලා නෑ. දැන් උදාහරණයකට ගත්තොත් ඒක ඇත්තරම අපි යූස් කරන විදිහ තමයි. දැන් ඔයාට ඕනනම් SUSE Linux එක උඩ මේල් සර්වර් එකක් දුවන්න කියලා ඒක දුවන්නත් පුළුවන්. ඔයාට ඕනනම් SUSE Linux එක උඩ වෙබ් සර්වර් එකක් දුවන්න ඒ දුවන්නත් පුළුවන්. හැබැයි අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාට යූස් කරන්නේ එක්ක Debian එක්ක Red Hat Enterprise Linux RHEL එක විතරයි යූස් කරන්නේ. එහෙම ස්පෙસિෆික් ටාස්ක් කියලා නෑ. හැම එකටම ඒ කියන්නේ OS එකක් විදිහට ඕන එකකට යූස් කරන්න පුළුවන් ඔයාලට. You can definitely use it. It's not just bind to any specific task. None of these server OSs are not bind to any specific task. Clear guys?
Yes sir.
ඔව් සර්.
Okay. Any questions? Anything else?
සර් මේ open source වල මේ අර virtual box එකක් install කරන්න නැතුව මේකේ උඩ වෙනම cluster කියලා මොකක් හරි එකක් හදන්න පුළුවන්ද?
ඈ?
මේ open source එක උඩ අර virtual box එකක් run කරන්නේ නැතුව මේ
Oh,
මේකේ වෙනම option එකක් තියෙනවද මේ අර ඔය අපි කියන ඒ අර hosted මේ ඒ servers වගේ හදන්න ඒ clustered වගේ මොනවා හරි හදන්න
එහෙම යනවනම් ඔයාලට containers යනවා Kubernetes cluster එකක් යනවා Kubernetes. එහෙම පුළුවන් Kubernetes වගේ clusters එකක් වගේ කියනතර virtual box නෙවෙයි Kubernetes cluster එකක් දුන්නා හරි. ඒ කියන්නේ Docker containers තවත් තමයි එතකොට කරන්නේ.
සර් මේ Linux OS වල පුළුවන් ද සර් අපේ ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් අපේ ලැප් එකක් තියෙනවනේ ඒ hardware වලටම compatible වෙන්න OS එක install කරන්න මම ඒව කතාවක් අහලා තියෙනවා.
මට තේරුන්නේ නැහැ ඒක.
දැන් අපි සර් මේ OS එක ඒ කියන්නේ අපි Ubuntu කොහෙන් හරි download කරගත්තත් ඒ මොකක් හරි තැනකින් හදපු එකක් නේ.
ඕ
ඒ වගේ ඒ කියන්නේ අපේ කම්පියුටර් එකටම compatible වෙන්න හදන්න පුළුවන් ද OS එක install කරද්දී?
ඔව් ඔව්. hardware compatible වෙන අපිට ලියන්න ඒ කියන්නේ kernel editing කරන්න පුළුවන් අපිට. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි ඒක කරන සමහර වෙලාවට ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් උදාහරණයකට දැන් මේ පාර මගේ මේ Arch Linux එකේ දාද්දී sound drivers ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආවා මගේ එකට. මම එතකොට ඒක තිබ්බ මගේ මේකට compatible වෙන මම modules වගේ disable කරා kernel එකේ. එහෙම කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒව කරනවා ඇත්තටම සමහර තැන්වල අපි. purposely හෝ unpurposely අපිට කරන්න වෙනවා. kernel tune up එකක් කරන්න අපි. So are you clear guys with this what we have discussed so far like unfortunately we will be not going to do any like kernel editing or anything like that because this is just a basic thing that we will be going forward like even if you want to learn the kernel editing you need to go through the Linux foundation exams. There is a separate kernel development, separate course for the kernel Linux kernel development which will be cost around like 3,000 USD like still 3,000 USD in the sense 700,000 Sri Lankan rupees roughly yes sorry 600,000 Sri Lankan rupees that is for the kernel development. Okay, so let's moving ahead like there are different type of advantages when you using the Linux operating system like type of OSs. One thing is you don't want to spend any money but actually for the utilization purposes you might require special skill sets and the time as well because we can't say that by like when you're dealing with the Windows you don't want to too much worry about it. It is very much easy to go through the Windows environment like installations and the utilization usage and everything is straightforward. Even a normal user will be able to install the softwares into their computers and so on and so forth. Even the regular user can be simply they can simply what we call it as they can simply manage the operating system. But when it comes to the Linux, it's not like that. So the regular user, if they don't know anything about it, regular user does not be able to manage the operating system. It really requires special skill sets and as well as the time. So whenever you are dealing with the Windows environment, you might figure out that Windows patch update is a painful process in the Windows environment. So most of us, we don't like to go for a Windows patch update because it's definitely a painful process. Because of that, what we really going to know here is what we actually going to use here is like whenever you are going through the Windows patch updating, for the maintainers, for different task completions, you need to done several reboots across your environment. But when it comes to the Linux, it's not really required. Like if you see here this machine, I'll show you. This machine is continuously right now running for a 1 week period. This my laptop. So I didn't do the reboot. Like normally, I'm not going to do the reboot frequently. The reason is that is not really required. That is not really required. And you can customize the operating system at any given time. You can customize it. If you let, like say for example, if you see your performance is not quite enough to run your operating systems, you can do so many customizations. You can fine tune the operating systems. Whereas Windows, we can't do that one. So if that is the only, there are different type of cases, like you have a number of choices whenever you are going forward with the Windows environment. So you are not bind to or bound to any single operating system. Let's say for example, if you say Microsoft, right now you are bound to the Microsoft Windows 10 environment, right? So but in Windows Linux environment, you are not bound to any single OSs where you can choose it. So you have the Debian, you have the under the Debian, you have so many operating systems. You have the other Linux OSs, so SUSE Linux, Fedora, CentOS. So it's up to you to decide everything. And even like if you going forward with the Windows environment, if you can't select the graphical user interfaces, of course you can do some changes, you can do the modifications, but you can't, it's up to a certain level. You can do so many things there. But when it comes to the Linux environment, even you can customize your GUI as well. There are different type of GUI software. I told you that Linux will be provided only the kernel. The rest of the software which is really required to run the operating system will be provided by the GNU. So in that case, even like if you want to have in my Linux environment, in here I'm using KDE desktop environment, but there are GNOME desktop environment, KDE. I'll show you those things while we are going with the practicals. And then XFSC GUI environment. Likewise, there were so many choices that you can select, even for the, not even for the operating system, but even for the, like say for example, you can install the let's say for example Arch Linux with the GNOME GUI, or you can install Arch Linux with the KDE GUI. So the two users are using the same operating system with the different type of graphical user interfaces, GUI environment. So that is also possible. So likewise, there were so many customizations provided by the Linux. So you are not bound to any like single software selections. So it's customizable. So those are the benefits that you are getting with the Linux environment. Even the resource utilization for your computers, like it's very when it compare with the Windows OS, it's very less. Like nowadays, if you want to run the Windows 8 environment, you actually need the at least 8 GB RAM on your laptop. So otherwise, obviously, it will be degrade your performance. So, but when it comes to the Debian OS, those are very lightweight OSs. Even you can run the latest Debian OS with the 4 GB RAM. So that is guaranteed. So that's the main concerns. But some OSs, like if you look at the Fedora, of course, they are utilizing high resources on your computer. It's very much similar to the Windows environment. But Debian flavors, if you look at the Debian flavors, Debian OS is like it's a very lightweight OS, and the Ubuntu also, when it compare with the Windows, it's very lightweight OS. Ubuntu also the same thing. Mint OS is also very lightweight OS. So those are the like a major improvement that you are getting with the advantage that you are getting with the Linux. Are you clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Right. So even here you can see the Linux, that if you are facing issues with the disk is full, hard disk is full, still this particular environment will be work with the even the almost full disk hard disk as well. Even your hard disk is almost full, still the Linux OS will be working fine. But if you do have any other hardware resource issues, obviously that might impact to the operating system levels. But hard disk like Windows, they may definitely impact even you have running the disk full environment. But Windows doesn't impact your impact to the disk full environment as well. That is also there. So when it comes to this, when you going forward, when you look at this Linux system architecture, this is one of the important thing that you need to understand. So you have the kernel, and you have the underlying hardware. On top of the hardware, you have the kernel, because kernel is playing major important role here. I have already explained that on last week. And then on top of the kernel, you have the shell environment. Shell in the sense, I told you that the command line interface. Here we have the bash environment. So keep in mind that the Linux, any type of Linux flavors, the default shell environment, that scripting environment that we are having is the bash. So whatever the commands that you are executing in the terminals to complete your task in the operating system, so those are the bash commands. So you don't want to be a separate expert to run the bash command separately, because whenever you deal with the shell environment, that means you actually know the bash commands. So that means you can easily write it down the shell programs, bash programs, if you know the basics of the programming languages as well. So after that, on top of the shell, you have the different type of applications, compilers, whatever the commands that you are executing, grep command, date command, cd command, editors like vi editors, text editor, different type of text editors. So all those use applications will be held on top of the shell environment. So this is what we really call it as a Linux architecture, or the Linux operating system. So it's contained 4 major components. Actually, the hardware is for any operating system, you should have the hardware, the kernel, shell, and the user space application. So a shell is an interface to the kernel and hiding the complexity of the kernel functions from the user. So basically, whenever you are executing any type of GUI environment or any commands, so the shell will be intercepting our commands to the kernel environment. So it's a sort of a interface to the kernel and to the user space applications. That is exactly what they are going to do. Is it clear, guys? So there are about different type of false myths about the Linux, Linux is too difficult for ordinary people to use because it uses only text and require programming. Of course, you don't require any programming knowledge, and you don't want to use the text editor, not even the text editor, but the GUI also available. Right now, I'm running my personal laptop with the Arch Linux, so it's definitely most of the time I'm dealing with the GUI, not with the terminal. Most of the time. It has some complexities, but not too difficult to use it. If you having some general knowledge on the computers, obviously you can use it. Linux is less secure than the Microsoft Windows because the source code is available to anybody. Obviously not. When it comes to security, we can't say the Microsoft is better than the Windows or Windows is better than the Microsoft, because we don't know what is actually because we don't know the attacker's mindset. Sometimes attackers may be targeting the Linux environment, sometimes attackers may be targeting the Windows environment. So I have recently seen that one of the Revil ransomware, that is one of the ransomware variant that they are targeting right now, Linux environment. They developing the ransomware to the targeting the lot of Linux servers. So that can be possible actually. But at the time that we speak today, like most of the ransomware are targeting the Windows environment. But based on the attacker's mindset, that can be changed. So we can't say that Windows is secure or Linux is secure. That is not there. Any operating system can be hacked and can be vulnerable. So that is another myth that we are having. Then again, it is not worth bothering to learn Linux because most companies use Microsoft Windows. That's knowledge of the obviously not. Like I said, if you are like Windows, like if you are an untechnical person, like you are doing the accounting, management jobs, and so on and so forth, obviously you don't want to learn the Linux because. But if you are a technical person, you definitely need to learn Linux. That is must. Linux is one of the important thing that should learn before you people go ahead. Like even in the industry level as well. Are you clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So then again, there's another myth called Linux cannot have much of future because it's free and thus there is no way of a business to make money from it. Obviously not like that. So if you are running your own business rather than making Microsoft Fridge, you can run the Linux environment and you can use their free and open source solutions for your environment because we don't want to make a payment for anyone. And Linux and other free software is a type of software piracy because not like that. So there we don't have any software piracy issues like Microsoft or any other operating systems that they are provide. So interesting facts about the Linux is like this. I have already discussed these things. Like I told you, Linux is not an operating system. Even here also, Linux is not an OS, but it is the kernel. GNU Linux is the OS and it comes with the several hundred flavors. So as I told you, Linux is not an operating system. Keep in mind that one. Keep in mind that even still, some of these definitions says that Linux is OS. Guarantee it's not an OS. So don't tell that is OS. Linux kernel was written by a 21-year Finnish college student as a part of his hobby. His name is Linus Torvalds. So this is the person who has started the Linux kernel actually. That is actually his hobby. He started as a hobby, Linus Torvalds. Now he's at the time he was writing it, he was actually at the age of 21. Torvalds created Linux based on GNU, like a general public licensing. Fast Torvalds would have never written his own kernel if GPL would have been its own kernel and driver. So, of course, based on the different environment, so Torvalds actually has been written the Linux under the GNU public licensing, GNU GPL, General Public Licensing. And the Linux kernel, most of the majority of the Linux kernel is written using the C language. Actually, not majority in the sense 99% of the Linux code are written by using the C programming language and assembly language also there. So since because so the kernel should be able to talk to the hardware level. So in order to talk to the hardware level, the two only languages that is available for today to talk to the hard drive C and the assembly language. So the Linux kernel is it's a mix a combination of assembly and the C language. And if you look at the today's source code, only 2% of the source code has been written by the Torvalds. Rest of the 98% has been written by the community. You look at this, the contribution right now, 2% of the person who has invented the Linux kernel, even though he has invented it, right now the kernel, that source code has only the contribution to the kernel source code is 2% by the Torvalds. So that is the level that we have gone. If you look at do you know how many codes are there? Million plus 1 million plus codes available on the Linux kernel. Just imagine the Linux source code. Just imagine the Linux source code. 1 million plus. Obviously, it's not possible to written down by a one person or single person, because that is definitely not possible. Definitely not possible. So anything else that you want to ask, because this is the end of this like here the recent estimate says about 29 million people use Linux worldwide, but it's very less if you look at the world population, because it's if you look at the world population, what is the world population? It's more than 10 billion, I guess, right?
ලිනක්ස් වල ලයිව් රන් වෙන්න තියෙන ෆීචර්ස් මොකක්ද? අර දැන් අපිට Windows එහෙම පෙන් එක දාලා ලයිව් රන් කරන්න බෑනේ.
ලයිව් Windows වල ඒ කියන්නේ මෙහෙමයි. ඒක ලයිව් ඉන්ස්ටොලේෂන් එක දෙනවා, සපෝට් එක. ඕක ඇත්තටම දෙන්නේ ට්‍රබල් ෂූටින් වලට. ඒ කියන්නේ ඉන්ස්ටෝල් නොකරම ආර ටෙම්පරරි යාලා කරන්නේ, ටෙම්පරරි මවුන්ට් කරනවා මුළු ෆෝල්ඩර් එක, මුළු මේ ඔයාගේ ෆයිල් සිස්ටම් එකම ටෙම්පරරි ඩිරෙක්ටරියට. ඒකෙන් තමයි ලයිව් මවුන්ට් කරන්නේ. ඕක Windows වල කරන්න බැරි හේතුව තමයි Windows වල තියෙන concept එක, කියන්නේ disk concept එක ඇවිල්ලා mounting නෙමෙයි. උන් යන්නේ drive letters. ඒකයි case එක. ඒතර drive letters හදාගන්න බෑ hard disk එක. අරක කරන්නේ කෙලින්ම temporary boot එකක් කරන්නේ. temporary boot එක කරන්නේ temporary mount කරන මුළු root file system එකම temporary directory එකකට live එකේදී. එච්චරයි කරන්නේ. ඒක තව ඇත්තට underlying technologies, but basically ඔක තමයි වෙන්නේ. මට අනිත් එක නම් ඔයාලට explain කරන්න මට තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ ඒක නම්.
ඒ කියන්නේ මේ Windows වල හරි මොකක් හරි data වලට කොච්චර security දාලා තිබ්බද? ඒ කියන්නේ live mount කරලා අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන් නේ.
බෑ data security දාලා තියෙන නම් බෑ. live bound කරා කියලා ඔයාට ওই data ඔක්කොම දැන් ඔයා data encrypt කරලා එහෙම තියෙනවා නම් ඒක access කරන්න බෑ ඔයාට. encrypt කරලා නැත්තම් ඉතින් ගන්න පුළුවන්. encrypt කරලා නැත්තම් ඔයාලට data ටික ගන්න පුළුවන්. encrypt කරලා නම් live boot කරලා ගන්න බෑ. ඔය live boot කරාට වැඩක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. keys ටික නැහැනේ. encrypt කරපු keys ටික තියෙන්නේ OS එක ඇතුළේමනේ. ඒතකොට encrypt keys නැතුව ගන්න බෑ. right. So the next thing that actually we will be going to like do it today is the installation part. I'll just go through the guide, like how you are going to do the installations, proceed with the installation on the guide, and then we'll do the live practical exam, the installations on this Friday as well. This Friday will be possible. Sorry guys, sorry, right. So whenever you are going to install the any type of Linux OS, just keep in mind you don't want to too much worry about the installation, because the installation is pretty much straightforward. Like once you select it, you will be there. You are going to install, like you need to select whether you are going to do the real installation or you are going to do the installation, something like live installation. So that's, you have to select it. So once you select the, you are going to do the live installations. So the next thing what you are going to do is you need to select, just give me a second guys. So once you select the required say for example once you select the whether you are going to do the live installation or whether you are going to do the real installations. So the next thing that what you need to do is you need to then select like there will be different things like keyboard layout. Those are actually, I think for the Windows installation also that will be there, right? Keyboard layout and several other things and so on and so forth. But once you done the rest of the configuration part, the next important thing that you understand is the partition. So that is partitioning is there are two ways that we can do it. One is the traditional disk partitioning. The other one is the logical volume management. We are going to discuss this one with the disk management. Nothing to worry. Traditional disk partitioning is we just do the partitioning like we first. There were three components that we require. One is the boot. So whenever you are going to deal with it, you have to understand that if you look at the Windows environment, what is the critical partition on the Windows? If you look at the Windows environment, what is the critical partition on the Windows? Do you have any idea on that?
This partition is අපි අර voice එක install කරන්න hard එක අපි virtually කඩන්නේ.
හරි ඔයාගේ critical partition එක මොකද්ද? ඒකේ දැන් ඔයාලා drive letters කඩනෝනේ මොකද්ද critical එක?
තේරුණා නැත කිව්වේ.
නෑ මං අහන්නේ දැන් ඔයාලගේ Windows වල දැන් Windows OS එක boot වෙන්නේ මොන partition එකේ තියාගෙන සාමාන්‍යයෙන්?
C partition එක.
හරිනේ. එතකොට critical එක C එකනේ. එතකොට ඒක තමයි টොප්ම තියෙන්නේ. Linux වලත් එහෙමම තියෙන කතාවක්. Linux වල critical ම টොප්ම යන්නේ ඇත්තටම අපි ඒක කියන්නේ forward slash කියලා. ඔකට අපි කියන root කියලා. Root partition. Right? So whatever the rest of the partition will be built under the root partition /boot. So there are different purposes in these partitions like /boot, /etc, /var, /usr. There are different type of things /sbin, /bin. We are going to discuss this thing with the file system management. So nothing to worry about it. So that obviously we are going to discuss it. But we will be definitely going to discuss those things separately. But look at this one like whenever you go for a traditional partitioning, you really require three type of partitions. Just to keep in mind for the time being, I'll be explaining that one with the disk management and the file system hierarchy. Boot, the size should be at least 200 MB because this particular boot partitions will containing the two important things. One is the kernel, the other one is the initramf image. They are going to store two important components. One is Linux kernel and the other one is important Linux kernel and the other one is initramf image. Ramfs image. So those are the two components that they are going to store. Then again, we do have the, we need to store the another partition type called SAP. SAP is like whenever you are going to deal with the Windows, you might know there is a separate secondary memory called cache memory. Have anyone see that one, caching memory? ඒක ඔයගලන්ට පේන්නේ නැහැ ඉන්ස්ටලේෂන් එකේදී හැබැයි ඒක ඉබේට ඔටෝමැටිකලි හදා ගන්නවා. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් SAP එක අපි ගහනවා SAP එක ඇවිල්ලා අපි කියන්නේ virtual memory එකක් කියලා. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් SAP එකට අපි දෙනවා RAM එක වගේ දෙගුණයක්. double the RAM. ඒක දෙන්නේ RAM එක 2G 4GB වලට වැඩි අඩු නම් විතරයි ඈ. RAM size එක 4GB වලට වැඩි නම් අඩු නම් විතරයි. නැත්තම් අපි දෙන්නේ RAM එක වගේ එක size එකට 2GB විතර ඇඩ් කරලා තමයි දෙන්නේ. RAM එක 2GB වලට වැඩිය වැඩි නම් 4GB වලට වැඩිය වැඩි නම් කොහොම තමයි කරන්නේ. ඕක තමයි අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අර Mac දිනය. හැබැයි සමහරලාට දැන් හිතන්නකෝ ඔයාගේ RAM එක තියෙනවා 64GB. අපි කවදාවත් 66GB දෙන්නේ නැහැ SAP එක. අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් 16GB විතර දෙන්නේ SAP එක. මම ඔයාලට SAP එකේ purpose එක explain කරන්නම්. SAP එක තියෙන temporary memory එකක්. ඒ කියන්නේ RAM එක මදි වුණොත් SAP එක තමයි පාවිච්චි කරන RAM එක වෙනුවට. ඒකයි SAP එක virtual memory නැත්නම් cache in memory කියලා අපි කියන්නේ. ඊට පස්සේ SAP එක ඊළඟට root partition එකට ඉතුරු ඔක්කොම දෙනවා. rest of the size of the hard disk. Samanyan, whenever you go for a traditional disk partitioning, these three partitions are enough. But actually, when you go for a live, this is not enough. But for a time being, just remember these three partitions are enough to install the operating system, right? But when you go for a logical volume management, it's a different concept. So don't worry about this one, because we will be most probably if we have the time we are going to learn it, but if you don't have the time we will be not going to learn the logical volume under the disk management. But if you see, like, go for a Red Hat courses for the RHCSA, we are going to do the logical volume management separately. That course will be like that thing will be separately considered, right? LVM. So don't in this stage you don't think about the do not need to worry about the LVM. Just think about the traditional partitioning, and while you installing do the disk partitioning, use this particular disk three type of disk formats partitions to install the Linux operating systems. So these are the three important content that you really want to consider while you are going ahead. Are you clear, guys? After that, you don't want to do anything. What you can do is you can just click on the next and finish it, and then you can go with the installations. So the important thing that again you need to consider is once you complete the installation, before you complete in the installations, you need to set the password for the root. So that is must. Otherwise, they are not going to complete the installations if you not set the password for the root, because that is also I need to explain. Whenever you are dealing with the users, who is the privileged user in the Windows environment? Who is the privileged user in the Windows environment? What are the ultimate privileges in Windows environment? Administrator, exactly correct. Administrator. Similarly, in Linux OSs also, we have a privileged user, but we don't say that is administrator. In the Linux OSs, the privileged user what we are having is the root. We call this as root. So while you are going forward with the installations, you might need to remember that set the root password while you are installing. But you have to keep in mind, whenever you go for Red Hat installation only, you need to set the password, root password at the installations. Debian installations, they are not allow you to set the root password for the root user. Because at the time of installing, they have been disabled the root user by default. That is the default behavior. While you need to install while you're installing the Debian, what you need to really do is you need to create the separate privileged user who will be a member of the administrator group. That is how the Debian behaves, and the other way around, the Linux behavior is the other way around. Actually, sorry, CentOS behavior is the totally different way. Is it clear, guys? ඒකයි මම කිව්වේ අර flavor එකෙන් flavor එකට even installation process also sometimes might be changed. It might be changed sometimes. Clear, guys?
Yes, sir.
Right. Any questions? Anything that you want to ask so far? Any questions, guys, so far what we have discussed? Right. So you are getting the first assignment today. Like you need to download the CentOS and proceed with the installations of the CentOS. So next week I'm going to mark your assignments. So I'll be giving you 10 marks for that particular assignment. So out of 10, you have to take that, you have to count the marks. So the first assignment of the day is, that is this course is to you need to go ahead, you need to complete, you need to install the CentOS on your virtual environment, and you should have create while installing the Linux environment, you need to create the user as well with your name or index number. That's your first assignment. So even no worries, I'm going to do the installation of the Debian because I'm quite sure we won't be able to do it today itself. Okay, guys. Okay, since you don't have any questions, we are going to wind up for today. So the next Friday, this Friday, we'll start with the installation of the OS, and I'm marking your assignments as well. So you need to install CentOS. Practical sessions, I'll be showing you how to install the Linux, the Debian OS. So that is the assignments. Assignment is the CentOS. Practical, I'm going to demonstrate you the installation of the Debian. Okay, guys.
Okay, sir.
Right. Okay. Then we'll meet on next this Friday, and we'll complete the rest. So until then, have a safe week and stay safe, guys. See you and bye bye.
Okay, same to you, sir.